Hello and welcome to the Red Phone Zone. I am one of your hosts, Ethan, and today on Confessions of a Movie Snob, I'm going to be talking about the 2011 film Priest. Now, Priest was directed by Scott Charles Stewart, who previously directed another Paul Bettany movie called Legion, a movie that I didn't think was too terribly bad. In fact, I thought it was a heck of a lot better than I thought it was going to be. This movie, again, stars Paul Bettany and Carl Urban, as well as some others. The original concept of the movie was by Minwoo Hyung in a graphic novel called Priest as well. The movie clocks in at about 87 minutes. I went to a Monday matinee, so, I spent $5 on it. The movie really felt, at 87 minutes, felt really rushed. It felt like they had sort of a concept of maybe a trilogy in here that they sort of decided to edit down extensively down to an 87-minute movie. Not really a trilogy, more like two movies in one. The movie centers around the priest's character, Paul Bettany, who is just known as Priest. His brother, Owen, I believe was his name, gets Owen and his wife, Shannon, and their daughter, daughter's name was something, Lucy, that's right. I think Lucy might be their shout out to the whole Dracula franchise, but the Owen's family or the priest's family gets his brother gets mortally wounded and his sister-in-law, I should say, gets killed, and his daughter gets kidnapped by vampires. Now the movie is set in the future. It doesn't really tell you how far into the future, sort of thing. It doesn't even. It's one of those interesting concept movies that doesn't say, well, history is as it was, except now in the future vampires have shown up and we do this. It takes the stance of vampires have always been here, we've always been at war, and as the wars got worse over the centuries and over time, we essentially destroyed most of the planet to destroy them. The main concept behind the film with the priests is that the church takes over, for the most part, takes over society, and people start following the tenets of the faith and whatnot. And they develop these super warriors. Now, they aren't really clear on whether or not they have superpowers or anything, but for a lot of what they do in the movie is fairly superhuman. But it's not so much so that it's these guys are obviously a lot better than everyone else, but it sort of takes that action-oriented thing. I mean, if you saw the movie Red, they're pretty much doing the stuff they do in that movie. It's like stepping out of moving cars and doing crazy stuff, but it's sort of the overtop action that you get used to. But these priests are developed by the church as super warriors to fight the vampires. And, well, what they did is they fought the vampires, went on into several of their hives, and ended up killing most of the vampire menace. And now the church goes along the concept and spreads the ideal that there is no vampire menace. All the vampires have been destroyed. Paul Bettany's character, Priest, is one of these old priests, and after they have, quote-unquote, destroyed the vampire menace, the church is afraid of them and disbands the order and sort of does a Knights Templar type thing, disbands the order, says they can't they can't fight anymore, and sets them loose on the world. Well, that's generally a good concept. A lot of other places have done a better job at it. One thing that reminds me of is a role-playing game put up by Mayfair called Underground. And it's not a new concept where you have this really bad war going on, and so one side develops these super warriors that are just designed to kill real well and do their job well. But once they're done, they're faced with the notion of what to do with them. So what a lot of them do is they're people, so we'll just disband them, put them back in society, and let them be. In Priest, that's what they do, and they don't really play around with that too much. Maggie Q's character mentions that the only job she could find was waste management. You never really find out what Paul Bettany's character was doing after the war, what his day job was, but ultimately stuff like that isn't important to the movie. The movie itself feels much like a post-apocalyptic Western, and in that aspect, it does a very good job. It very much feels like a Western. It feels very frontier-like. It feels very dirty, gritty, and you have, there are the obvious parallels in here with any Western. I mean, the villain Carl Urban, his only credited name is Black Hat. So you essentially have White Hat, you have Black Hat. Conceptually, the movie had a lot of great concepts to it. I really felt that they could have gone in some better directions with it. Like I would have felt, I would have liked to have seen if they had taken those priests and made them like completely indoctrinated with the doctrine of the church and had them basically be incredibly fundamentalist and very, very diehard, reading the Bible all the time and doing that thing. And I think they sort of wanted to go that way, but they ultimately didn't. At least if that's the intention that they wanted, that's not what they came across as. The movie has maybe about 5 or 6 priests in it, 3 of which get, I want to say 5 priests, including Paul Bettany's character, and 3 of the 5 do get killed, as the other 3 are just, throwaway mooks. The thing I should mention is Carl Urban's character, and you sort of get this from the trailer, is he was a priest but was lost in an attack on a vampire hive, and essentially he becomes this walking human vampire. That's another thing they are never really clear on is the types of vampires they are. They mentioned familiars, and then they have vampires. Well, the vampires have no eyes and are very much monster-like. Sort of akin to a much more bestial, animal-like vampire in I Am Legend, but not as human. They secrete a resin. I mean, it's much more along the lines of aliens, is what they are. And what Carl Urban's character is he's a human vampire that has been bred by one of the queens. And I really wish they had gone a bit more into the specifics or maybe even the biology of the vampires and sort of what makes these vampires different from vampires and other things, because obviously these vampires don't sparkle. The setting itself is, like I mentioned, very gritty, very gothic, sort of a cyberpunk gothic look to it. It really reminded me of the 1995 movie directed by Danny Cannon, Judge Dredd with Stallone. In and of itself, not a good movie, but the visuals and sort of the setting that he presents wasn't too bad. Oddly enough, I think it's amusing that with that analogy, Carl Urban is playing Judge Dredd in a new Judge Dredd movie supposedly coming out later this year or early next year. The performances in the movie were all good for the real exception of Cam Gigagnet, or however you pronounce his name, but he plays the character Hicks. He's the sheriff of this small frontier town and is in love with Lucy. And goes off, finds Paul Bettany's priest character, and tries to get him to come out and help him to track down these vampires and to track down Lucy. In that sort of case, the movie sort of takes, it's another big Western turn. It's the Searchers type of film at that point. Is you have the Paul Bettany playing the John Wayne character, and the Cam Gigagnet guy playing the other character in the Searchers, whose name escapes me right now. But I don't want to say it's a bad movie, but it's not a good movie either. Really, the overall way I can say is meh. The Hicks character, Cam, I'm not even going to try his last name anymore. I'm not sure what kind of a role he's trying to pull off in this movie, whether he's trying to be he sort of tries to pull off this I'm a badass sheriff type of thing. I'm a really good shot. I'm really good with a knife, although you only see him really use the knife once, and then the rest of the movie is using a gun. That seemed kind of odd and out of place. He just doesn't really pull off this macho action hero. He's too pouty, and there's a lot of points in the movie where Paul Bettany's character, the priest, basically says that if we find her and Lucy is infected or a familiar, I'm going to have to kill her. And the Cam character, the Hicks character, says, I'm not going to let you do that. And we're supposed to believe that the priest, Paul Bettany's character, is this big supreme badass, and really it's kind of a joke thinking that this guy, this Hicks character, is going to be any of a challenge to stop the priest. So ultimately, like I said, my overall My overall impression of the movie is it's not a good movie, but it's not a bad movie. By no means is it something to rush out and purchase when it comes out. If it's on TV, you might catch it or hit it up on Netflix type of thing. But ultimately, there are better movies out there. You should check them out. It's not one I actively hate or just loathe and despise. There's good characters in it. Unlike Sucker Punch, this movie does have a lot of style, but has some substance in there with some good acting and some good character pieces and some good character moments with the main people. So ultimately, good film. I enjoyed it. So that's my confessions on the 2011 Scott Charles Stewart film Priest.